When you rise in the morning, before the clamor of the world begins, before the notifications flash and the demands of life start knocking on your mind, there is a stillness. That stillness is not empty. That stillness is filled with something sacred. It is the quiet hush of heaven breathing upon you, reminding you that you have been given another day. That stillness is God's grace, slipping gently into your awareness, asking no permission, requiring no perfection. It just who is. You didn't earn this morning. You didn't have to fight for it in your sleep. You didn't have to apply for a new dawn. It was gifted to you. Not because of what you did yesterday or what you plan to do today, but simply because God is still writing your story. You are here, still here, and that alone is a miracle wrapped in mercy. Each morning, grace enters the room before you do. It opens the curtains on your behalf. It watches the clock while you rest. It lingers beside your bed like a loving parent watching over their child. You might wake up tired, confused, anxious, but grace is never weary. Grace shows up with a calm assurance, saying, "Child, you made it. You're still in the plan." There are days you don't feel ready to face what's ahead. You may not know how the bills will get paid, how the diagnosis will turn out, how the relationship will heal, how the grief will lift. But I'm here to remind you that grace is not a feeling. Grace is a fact. It is the evidence of God's favor resting gently over your life, even when your emotions haven't caught up with the truth. You see, grace isn't loud. It doesn't barge in. It doesn't wave a flag or make an announcement. No, grace is elegant. Grace is patient. Grace is like the sun rising behind the clouds. You may not see it right away, but it's working. It's pulling darkness back inch by inch. So when you open your eyes in the morning, I want you to pause. Just for a moment. Before you scroll, before you speak, before you start checking off the do list, pause and breathe. Breathe like someone who has survived something, because you have. Every single person in this room, in this world, has endured something that tried to steal their morning. But here you are. You didn't quit. You didn't cave in. Grace carried you. Maybe you weren't even aware of how close you came to giving up. Maybe no one knows the tears you cried in the midnight hour, the fears you couldn't name, the questions you couldn't ask out loud. But grace knew. Grace saw. Grace covered you while you slept. It stood at the gate of your soul like a guard, not letting despair take hold. And that's why I say this morning is holy. Not because the sun is out, not because everything's going right, but because you are standing in the presence of another chance, a fresh start, a divine do-over. You are not who you were yesterday. You are being shaped, refined, uplifted, whether you feel it or not. And grace is the potter's hands. There is a rhythm to grace in the morning. It wakes up before you and waits by the window, calling your name without sound. It invites you not to rush into your worries, but to sit in the warmth of being chosen to live again. This morning, you are not late. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are alive. And that's enough for now. So don't let the world dictate your worth before your feet hit the ground. Let grace define your value. Let grace remind you that you are more than your struggles, your fears, your failures. You are a child of God, awakened on purpose, loved without condition. And if all you can say this morning is, "Thank you," let that be your prayer. Let it rise from your chest like incense. Let it echo in your heart like a psalm. Because gratitude is the language of grace, and your breath is proof that God has not finished with you yet. You woke up in grace. Now walk in it. You may look at yourself in the mirror each morning, steadying your reflection, and feel the weight of the day ahead pressing on your shoulders. You might ask yourself, how did I get here? How am I still standing when everything seems to be crumbling? The truth, beloved, is not found in your strength or your willpower. It is found in the quiet, unshakable presence of grace that has kept you alive and whole, even when you thought you couldn't hold on another moment. You didn't wake up this morning because of your own effort. You woke up because grace, God's unmerited favor, was already working behind the scenes long before you took your first breath. It is grace that pulled you from the depths when you thought there was no way out. It is grace that stitched together the broken pieces of your heart, even when you were unaware it was happening. Your survival, your ability to stand, to breathe hope, this is grace in action. Many times life will test us. It will shake the foundations of what we thought was steady. It will bring storms that seem impossible to weather. but grace is the gentle hand that steadies the trembling, the quiet voice that says, "You are not alone." It does not shout or demand attention, but it is there, always there. It is the unseen power that keeps you moving forward when your legs want to give out, when your spirit feels too heavy to rise. You may think you are carrying the weight alone, but you are not. Grace carries you. It is not dependent on your strength or your resolve. It doesn't ask you to be perfect, to have all the answers, or to be strong every single moment. Grace meets you where you are, fragile, weary, broken, and still it says, "I will hold you." This is why the morning is so sacred. It is a reminder that grace never sleeps. It never takes a day off. Even when you are lost in the shadows of doubt or fear, grace is awake. It is the silent sentinel standing guard over your soul, making sure you wake up to another chance to live, to love, to heal. Think about the times you felt you had reached the end. The moments when your heart was heavy with pain, when your mind was clouded with worry, when the future looked bleak. And yet somehow you found yourself still here. You didn't give up. You didn't fall apart. You didn't surrender. That is not coincidence. That is grace. It's easy to look at success, at survival, and think it is all about our efforts. But the deeper truth is that grace is the foundation beneath every step we take. It is not because you were strong enough or smart enough or brave enough. It is because grace held you up, even when you didn't know you needed holding. Grace does not discriminate. It is not reserved for the righteous or the perfect. It is for the tired mother who wakes before dawn to care for her children. It is for the student who stays up late praying for clarity. It is for the man who fights the darkness of addiction every day. It is for the woman who dares to dream again, even after disappointment. Grace meets each of us in our humanity and says, "You are enough." And grace is patient. It waits with you through the slow healing, the long prayers, the unanswered questions. It understands that growth is not a race but a journey. It knows the seasons of life, the times of planting and the times of harvest. Even when you feel like you are standing still, grace is at work, shaping you, preparing you for what lies ahead. So, when you find yourself doubting your worth, your ability, your purpose, remember this: you are kept by grace. You are held by a power greater than any circumstance. When your own strength fails, grace will be your fortress. When your courage falters, grace will be your shield. There is a sacred beauty in surrendering your need to control everything and trusting that grace is enough. You don't have to carry the weight on your own. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to fight every battle by yourself. Grace is there, steady and sure, inviting you to lean into it. Let this morning be a reminder that grace is the reason you woke up. It is the reason you can face this day, no matter how hard it may seem. You are not here because of your strength alone. You are here because grace has been keeping you all along. Grace is the quiet victory beneath every struggle, the unseen hand beneath every triumph. It is not earned, not deserved, but freely given, and it is more powerful than any challenge you face. Walk in that truth today. Know that you are not alone. Know that you are kept by grace, and let that knowledge fill your heart with peace that passes understanding. You did not wake up by accident. You woke up because grace is carrying you still. There will be moments in your life when doors slam shut, when windows close without warning, and the walls of opportunity seem to press in around you. The world, with all its noise and judgment, may say no to your dreams, no to your hopes, no to your deepest longings. And in those moments it can feel like you are trapped, stuck in a place where nothing moves forward. But here is the sacred truth you must hold close to your heart, and grace makes room, even when the world closes doors. Grace is the divine force that carves a path when there appears to be none. It is the holy yes whispered in the silence of rejection, the gentle "come on through," when every other voice says, "stay out." It is not always loud or obvious, but grace is always present, always working beneath the surface, creating space for you to walk into your destiny. Life will test you with closed doors. You will hear no from people who don't see your potential, from circumstances that seem impossible to change, from failures that feel like final judgments. But grace is the quiet architect of new beginnings. It is the hand that reaches out in the darkness to build a bridge where there was only a chasm. When you face rejection, don't let it define your worth. Don't let it convince you that you are less than you were created to be. The world's no is not the final word. Grace says, I have not forgotten you. Grace says, I am making a way. It may not be the way you expected, the way you planned, or the way you wanted, but it is a way nonetheless. And it is always a way toward life, toward hope, toward promise. There is a power in grace that breaks through the strongest barriers. It is the force that brings beauty from ashes, that turns mourning into dancing. When the world closes doors, grace opens windows. When the path is blocked, grace finds a detour. When all seems lost, grace creates a new vision. Remember the times you thought there was no hope, when every door seemed locked tight, and yet somehow something shifted. Maybe it was a chance encounter, a word of encouragement, a sudden insight that changed everything. That was grace making room. It was grace refusing to let your story end in defeat. Grace is not passive. It does not sit back and wait for you to fix everything. No, grace moves with purpose. It challenges you to trust beyond what you can see, to believe beyond what the eyes can witness. It calls you to step forward, even when the path looks uncertain, even when the future is wrapped in mystery. There is an invitation in grace to let go of control, to release the grip on how things should be, and to embrace the unfolding of a divine plan far greater than your own. It asks you to walk through the doors it opens, even if they are different from the ones you knocked on. Grace also teaches patience. It reminds us that sometimes the doors stay closed for a reason, that the delay is a preparation, a blessing in disguise. It whispers that what is meant for you will not be missed, that your time will come, and when it does, grace will be there to welcome you in with open arms. So when you feel stuck, when every option seems to vanish, when the world's rejection feels like a final verdict, hold on to grace. Let it be your refuge. Let it be your strength. Let it be the force that reminds you that you are not trapped, but being prepared for something new, something greater. Do not despair when doors close. Instead, listen closely for the soft knock of grace inviting you to another room, another season, another chapter. Because grace makes room where there is no room. Grace clears the path when the way seems impossible. Grace is the eternal promise that no matter how many doors shut, God's love will open a door wide enough for you to walk through. This morning, as you begin your day, carry this truth deep within your soul. No door is final, no rejection permanent, no closed path beyond the reach of grace. When the world says no, grace yes. When everything else fails, grace creates a way. Grace makes room, and you are already walking through that room. There is a beautiful power in the words we speak and the way we choose to live our lives. When you begin your morning prayer, it's not just about uttering words that float upward into the heavens. It's about allowing those words to settle deep inside, to shape your heart, and then to flow outward through your actions. Grace is not just something we receive. It is something we speak and live. Something that becomes visible in how we move through the world each day. You see, when you wake up each morning and speak words of grace, words of gratitude, of hope, of kindness, you are planting seeds. These seeds grow into attitudes and choices that reflect the divine love that has been poured into you. The prayer you offer is like a river that flows through your soul, and the life you live afterward is the fertile ground where grace blooms. Many people think of prayer as a moment, just a few words spoken quietly or loudly. But prayer is so much more than that. It is the way you carry yourself when you leave your bed, the way you meet others, the way you respond when challenges come. It is the tone in your voice when you speak to a stranger, the patience you show when life slows you down, the generosity you offer when someone is in need. Speaking grace means choosing to affirm life even when the world around you seems to be crumbling. It means refusing to curse your circumstances, your past, or yourself. It means acknowledging that even in the hardest moments, there is something sacred unfolding. When you speak grace, you create space for healing, not just for yourself, but for those who listen and watch. And living grace means embodying the very love that has been shown to you. It means letting your actions reflect the mercy that has found you in your brokenness. It means being a source of comfort, a beacon of hope, a hand reaching out to others who are struggling. Living grace is about moving beyond words and becoming the living proof of God's kindness and faithfulness. Grace in speech and life is not about perfection. It's not about always having the right thing to say or being flawless in your behavior. No, grace is most visible when we are real. when we admit our weaknesses, when we forgive ourselves and others, when we choose love even when it's hard. It is grace that softens our hearts and gives us courage to keep trying. Imagine if every morning you prayed not just for yourself but for others. Prayed for healing where there is pain, for peace where there is turmoil, for strength where there is weakness. Imagine how your words could lift others, how your life could inspire hope. That's the power of grace spoken and lived. When grace flows from your lips and your hands, it becomes a balm for the weary. It is the voice that speaks peace to the anxious mind, the smile that brightens a lonely heart, the encouragement that fuels a weary soul. Your words and actions become a prayer in motion, a testimony to the unending love that sustains you. This is why your morning prayer matters so much. It sets the tone for your day. It shapes your vision, your attitude, your willingness to be a blessing. When you start your day by speaking grace, you invite God's presence to move through you, to work through you, to shine through you. And when you live grace, you become a channel of that divine power for everyone you meet. Grace is contagious. When you choose to speak kindly, to forgive quickly, to love deeply, you inspire others to do the same. Your life becomes a light in the darkness, a reminder that God's love is alive and active. You don't have to be perfect to make a difference. You only have to be willing to let grace flow through you. So, as you rise this morning, remember that your prayer is only the beginning. Let it be the foundation on which you build a day full of grace. Spoken grace, lived grace, shared grace. Let your words be like seeds of hope, your actions like rivers of mercy, and your heart like a wellspring of love. The grace you receive is not meant to be hidden or kept for yourself. It is meant to overflow. It is meant to touch lives, to heal wounds, to break chains. And when you speak grace and live grace, you become a living prayer, an offering of love to a world in need. Begin this day with grace in your heart and on your lips, and carry it with you wherever you go. Let grace be the language you speak and the life you lead. Because when grace flows through you, the world is forever changed. Live grace, speak grace, be grace. Sometimes we carry a heavy burden, a mistaken belief that we must earn God's grace, that we have to prove ourselves worthy of love, forgiveness, and mercy. We think that we must be better, stronger, purer before we can receive what God freely offers. But here is the liberating truth: God's grace is not earned. It cannot be bought or bargained for. It is not something you achieve by being good enough or doing enough. Grace is a gift, pure, simple, and unconditional, and it finds you just as you are. You don't have to clean yourself up before you come to God. You don't have to put on a mask or hide the parts of yourself you think are broken or unlovable. Grace meets you in the mess, in the middle of your struggles, in the depths of your pain. It wraps around your imperfections and whispers, "You are enough." This is the radical nature of grace. It does not wait for perfection. It reaches out to those who feel least deserving. Think about the moments in your life when you felt least worthy. Maybe it was a mistake you couldn't forget, a failure that haunted your dreams, a rejection that cut deep. Maybe you carried shame like a heavy cloak, believing that you had to earn forgiveness or love. But grace does not operate on those terms. Grace breaks the chains of shame and guilt and says, "You are beloved, you are forgiven, you are accepted." This is why grace is such a powerful force. It invites us to embrace ourselves fully, even the parts we've tried to hide. It teaches us that worth is not something we have to chase or prove. Worth is something we already possess because we are children of God. You don't have to fight for it or earn it. It is yours simply because you exist. And when you accept this truth, something beautiful happens. You begin to see yourself through the eyes of love rather than judgment. You start to release the harsh self-criticism and the endless striving to be enough. You begin to rest in the knowledge that you are held, cherished, and valued, not because of what you do, but because of who you are. Grace invites you to be gentle with yourself. It calls you to stop beating yourself up for your mistakes, your doubts, your fears. Instead, it encourages you to step into the light of God's love, where healing begins. It says, "Come as you are, with all your scars and struggles, and be made whole." This is a revolution against the world's message that worth must be earned, that love is conditional. God's grace turns that message upside down. It says love is unconditional, forgiveness is free, mercy is abundant, and you are included in that sacred offering. Embracing grace also means forgiving yourself. Often, We hold on to guilt longer than we hold on to God's forgiveness. We replay our mistakes in our minds, condemning ourselves for what we wish we had done differently. But grace is the invitation to release that burden. It is the call to let go of the past and to step into the freedom of God's love. When you accept grace, you are free to live fully, without the heavy chains of shame dragging you down. You are free to walk forward with confidence, knowing that God's love is constant, unwavering, and limitless. You are free to love yourself and others more deeply because you have been loved first. This freedom does not mean you will never struggle or stumble. Life will still bring challenges, and you will still face moments of doubt and pain. But grace is the foundation that holds you steady. It reminds you that no matter what happens, you are not defined by your failures or flaws. You are defined by God's love. So today, as you begin your morning prayer, hear this deeply: you do not have to earn God's grace. You do not have to prove your worth. You are loved, accepted, and embraced just as you are. Your past does not disqualify you. Your mistakes do not diminish you. A grace finds you in every corner of your life, waiting patiently to lift you up and carry you forward. Let this truth settle in your heart. Let it change how you see yourself and how you live your life. Let it be the song you sing when you wake, the hope you carry through the day. You are enough. You are loved beyond measure, and grace is yours. Not because of anything you have done, but because of everything God has done it. Receive, embrace it, live in it. Grace is not earned, but embraced.